Hub City Dre with the Hub Radio. Real name, Andre Spicer. What inspired the Hub Radio? Originally, I was designing clothes. That's what I was doing before. Design evening gowns, suits, jeans, all types of different things, business suits and stuff like that. And I was doing fashion shows kind of all over the city, not the city, but the state. Did a couple out of state, and people wanted the product, but I had no means of producing the product. So I wanted to go intern at some radio stations, brush shoulders with some people, network, meet people that I can kind of network and kind of get that going. And I took some classes for broadcasting, and it kind of like transitioned into something else. They taught me how to be a personality on radio, and they also showed me how to monetize it. So I just took that blueprint and I just ran with it and kind of just did my own thing. As far as the Hub Radio, we touch on just the things that we do to make ourselves stand out different than everybody else's. We try to touch on all different genres. The Hub, by definition, is the center of activity. So it's where everything comes together. So I wanted to create the Hub Radio to be something similar. That I want to be able to have hip hop, relationship, sex, religion, just all these different aspects. You know what I'm saying? We did an event yesterday, a block party, and we had hip hop there, we had R&B there, we had poetry there, we had a mariachi band, we had a Latino rock band. Like it's a melting pot of things, and I try to do that in everything, in every aspect. So we'll have a hip hop show that might be similar to like the Breakfast Club. Then we'll have a show like Project 1448, where it's documentary of businesses. So it's more reality show based. Then you'll have something like a Scumbags Radio, where it caters towards the LGBT community. So it's just different shows that we touch on, and I don't think that most, I wouldn't say most, I mean, some people just don't touch on some of the things that we don't mind touching on. Right. Well, what inspires me to do certain events, we do all type of events, let me say that. So we've done fashion shows, we've hosted poetry, we've done showcases. Recently we did the block party, and what I wanted to do was, our mission statement is bringing people together for the better. That's our whole, that's everything, that's what we're about, the Hub Radio, bringing people together for the better. And in that case, we look to create opportunities to make sure we're bringing people together for a positive cause. For me, in this case, it was we get the chance to bring black and brown, young and old, streets, politics, law enforcement, to your everyday citizen. Like all that was at one location, and they were able to get along, network. The business, it was maybe about 25 vendors there, restaurants, clothing lines, health services. So we had a little bit of everybody there, and I just try to keep that same thing going. So I always keep that in mind. This is a time where we can recycle our own money. Right. I did a little research, and I was looking at how often the black dollar stays in this community, and then compared to everybody else's. So like the Asian community, it would stay in their community for 60 days. The Caucasian community, it'd be in there for 30 days. Mexican community, 20 days. The black community, 6 hours. So it's like a huge difference. And being that like African Americans are probably the biggest consumers in terms of purchasing items, it's like, yo, we outsource a lot. If we were to kind of bring it in, we can kind of do bigger things. And not just black, but also the brown, because we all in the same, yeah, we're all in the same community. So
you guys really push the whole, small businesses, and you guys try to make sure, like you said, keep the dollar within the community as opposed to going to larger brands. And
well, I understood a long time ago. I understood the power of having a platform and having mainstream media. I understood having a voice is major. I've traveled all over the country, so when I talk to people or when I meet people in different wherever, and I tell them where I'm from, like their response is, "You don't look like, you don't act like, you don't sound like, you don't dress like how my perception of what Compton should be." And I've been there my whole life.
What's your perception of Compton?
Well, what's your perception of Compton? That's the question. I've been there. I don't have a perception.
You know what it is, but I mean,
when you go to different places, they have perception of what it should be or what you should look like, or you know what I'm saying, how you should act, and it's all based on what you see in the media, or what you hear on TV, or what you see, you know, here on the radio.
Right.
And so they're expecting me to have Cortezes or Chucks, you know, some khakis. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, going that route, and it's not always what it is.
So you want to be that media source that shows what what you wouldn't see on Fox News or something.
Well, what they wouldn't talk about, or what they places where they wouldn't go, or stories that they don't care about, because you don't get positive reinforcement when you listen to mainstream media. I mean, they paint a picture of what they want you to, you know, have a narrative to it. It's a narrative to it, and I'm more of just I want to be a reflection of what's going on, but I choose to show the positive side as opposed to the negative side. That's out there already. We can talk about all the negative stuff that goes on in the city all day long.
About that all day. You know.
I'm not interested. I get some really, really dope stuff that goes on in my area. It's a kid named Isaiah Cooper that set the Guinness Book of Record for flying across the country at age 16 out of Compton Airport. But you won't hear about it.
Yeah.
Or
was it him flying, or was
he flew. He flew by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look it up. You can Google it. Like, that's something that they're not gonna talk about. Or the young man, I forget his name, just got accepted to Harvard University on full scholarship, academic scholarship. Like, you won't hear about stuff like that.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I've been in the city 3 generations. My mom's been there her whole life. She went to Compton High. My pops was a Compton police. My grandmother she's been in Compton for probably about 60 plus years.
So your family seen, you know,
Compton and Watts. That's where we from. So
your family seen the evolution of, you know, what's been going on through there. Is like, what kind of like insight can you give us on what's been going on? Like, just not like super detailed, but just, you know, how the community's risen and fallen, you know, at the same time.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go back to, let's say, the birth of Compton and where it came from. Compton, when it was first created, it was a gift to, like, some rich family that gave it to their niece as a wedding gift, some property, and it just happened to be where we're at. And they eventually built it up or whatever, and it became like a all-white community. Like, Compton was all white from the 1700s to probably like like 1950s. Yeah. But early on, they had like the LA River that ran under the city, so it made like the ground real fertile. And they first got its name from this guy named E.B. Compton was his name, and he was a farmer, and all of Compton was all farmland. So it was all about agriculture. So that was what was big at the time. So he entered a contest, and he grew like a huge, what was it, a pumpkin or a squash or something? Like
I imagine it'd be like some sort of gourd.
Like 135 pounds or something. It was huge, and like, it put the city on the map at that time. And over the time, it just, evolution changed. It went from, you know, blacks can't even live in here, you can't come in here, we won't sell you property, to the laws, because that was a law at the time.
Right.
Then the laws changed over time, as, you know, 1900s come along and whatnot, and blacks start to come in, whites start to go out, then it started to transition a little bit. And you see how gangs and drugs and all that affected the community, and certain laws, crack laws, and what all this stuff affected the community. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. My family's seen it probably probably since black people got here. My grandmother first bought her property. She was like the only black person on her block.
So your grandmother owns her property, or?
Yeah, she owns her property.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. My grandfather like moved their house. They moved the house from one location to that location, and they stay in like Richter Farms. They have a half-acre of land, and when I grew up over there, this is in Compton. It was horses, pigs, goats, chickens, geese, rabbits, chickens. Goats. This is all in my backyard, like on the land. You know what I mean? Like, so you'll never hear about that though. Like, it's still agriculture that goes on over there in that area. So I want the radio to have its own online network where we have our own network of different shows. Eventually be 24 hours worth of broadcasting online with raw, fresh, new, cutting edge content to, again, touch on every genre that we feel we can reach.
Okay. And it's like a 24-hour network. You guys got to be, kind of ahead of the curve on that, be up to game on what's coming out or what's about to hit the streets in, 10 minutes from now. Like, how do you guys stay up on what's, I guess, culturally relevant and what's, what you want to broadcast?
Well, right now we do a lot of community stuff. Mm-hmm. We also do a show called Relationship, Love, Religion, where we talk about topics in those categories. And it's not so much about having the cutting edge or being on top of the latest gossip or when Kanye gained 100 and some odd pounds, like having or Kevin. I mean, he looks like Rob Kardashian. It looks like it's Rob Kardashian. But being on top of that type of stuff doesn't matter. I want to be on the things that affect people.
So you're not trying to be academics or anything like that. You actually want to bring real news, like relevancy to what you're doing, like what's actually happening in your community.
I want to definitely do the things that and be involved in the things that directly affect the people that relate to me, that look like me, that I see every day. And I'm not so big on the whole gossip. Let's talk about what's popping in the streets and all that. Like, let's have some conversation, because conversation is what we don't have.
Right.
Do you believe in a heaven and hell?
No.
Well, why? Well, what's hell to you? Is it a red man with a pitchfork? Is it what's heaven to you? Is it a pearly gate with red? With gold streets? What's or not just that. We talk about how do you find love after divorce, or you talk about it's so many different topics that we touch on that people may not want to, or may feel it's taboo. And then let's talk about politics. Let's talk about voting. Let's talk about how Compton has 100 citizens, only 45,000 registered to vote, only 3,000 people vote for 5 people that control $300 million a year. Like, let's talk about that. Like, let's get involved in that. Let's talk about how, if there's only 3,000 people voting, and out of 45,000 registered, out of 100,000 people, well, what's the average age in Compton? It's 24. So who's not voting? Me. People like me. But they complain about wanting to change. So, but it's those types of things that might spark up an idea in you and say, hey, maybe we should do this, or maybe we could do that. Like, we sit here and fight over a couple $100 in the streets when the people that sit in the office are controlling, I'm not even playing, like $300 million every year. Minimum. So, we can do other things.
Definitely.
There's other things that we can focus on. I tell you to go focus on some BS that ain't gonna put $1 in your pocket. That's not gonna matter to your kid's life at all. I don't give a shit about Kanye gaining that much weight. It don't matter to me. Like, what he eat don't make me shit, literally. It has to be in you to want to do something different and to The thing is, you see things and you say, okay, well, you perceive an area to be a certain way, like we were talking about, and you say, well, you know, well, I'm grateful that you enjoy having this conversation, or you feel like you're getting something from it, or it's refreshing to see something out of the norm. But who's to say I'm out of the norm? It's just the perception of what you thought this group was, right?
Exactly.
So, and not even just that, it's not just your perception, it's our perception of ourselves. Like, I could talk to younger people in my community and they'd be like, man, well, where you come from? Or, you know, but for them it might, I've taught kids how to do a podcast, and it opens up different channels in their brain because they get to be creative and they get to see how far their brain can go. And I get to see the direct result of that, and just seeing how it happens. And yeah, man, to me, I mean, that's where my passion is at. Like, just changing the mind frame of and the perception.
You're a legit teacher. That's like that sounds like what you just explained to me right now. You like teaching people and seeing how their brains develop. And
yeah, man, I think the new generation, bro, is gonna be something really, really dope. Like the young kids coming up, I think they're gonna be really, really dope if we do our part as like the generation before them, and school them. I think that every generation should grow. I plan for my brain to be here for a very, very long time.
Build a legacy?
That would be the plan. I don't want to ever give up the power of media. I think that we don't have that. So I want to be refreshing to the culture, to say this is something this is something fresh, this is something new, this is something not politically driven. It's raw. It's the reflection of what's going on. And it's an outlet. It's a source. It's a medium. It's a hub. Not just Compton, because Compton is a hub city, but not just Compton. It's a hub. And that's what I want people to know. Well, that's what I want people to remember or always think about when they think of the brand. The best advice I could give to someone, in my experience, in building a brand, a team, is communication is key. Relationships is key. And vetting the right people is key. But you have to have a team. If you don't have a team, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I think that the only reason why the success that we have had was because it was group efforts. And so I always try that. Like, man, how'd you put this together? I'm like, shit, we did it. It was, you know, we all did it. We all put this together. We all did that. So I think it's very important to have those three key things. What's up, City Dre with the Hub Radio. You can log on to thehubradio.net. Check us out. We have several different shows that I think that you all love, man. And if you need to book us to host events, for DJ services, for videography, for commercials, hit us up at info@thehubradio.net. Or just hit me up on Instagram, social media. I am Hub City Dre.